premium. Mr. H here, obviously. You won't believe the level of spam calls I get on this furtive landline. I've obscured it from the authorities, the phone companies, the internet, and even the ethereal forces of nonsense and deleterious influence. But I have yet been unable to hide it from incessant, irritating advertisers. Trivia. Let us begin. His name, Hubert Platchett, age 89. An old man in his autumn years, losing touch with the world around him, watching his life be eroded and abraded until he had nothing but the people he knew. Location, Brooklyn, New York. The date, 1961. Come on, Platchett. A kid of maybe 20 or 21 told the octogenarian sitting in his favorite sofa seat. Get on up and join us. Nah, said Platchett, happy to be where he was. Platchett was happy exactly where he was. Home. A basement apartment under a beautiful old brownstone. It was simple, with a kitchen in the main room and a bedroom-bathroom beyond to the back. A simple window above the front wall looked streetwise, his front door leading right up to the busy street where he had lived for most of his life. Furniture worn, but warm. It was a snuggly abode for an aged man. Platchett saw it all. He saw the horses fade into the cars, the gas blow away when electric came. The radio began broadcasting and TV stations popped up. The trains slowly fade to trucks, and all the music, styles, fads, and fancies of many generations. Now, it seemed, it wouldn't be far off until there would be a man on the moon. Yet Platchett always stayed grounded and never felt far from home if he was in Brooklyn. He knew everyone. After being a ditch digger, a grave digger, a typist, a dock worker, an electrician, a plumber, a sales clerk, and a clothier, Hubert Platchett was finally just an old man with a rich history. And his history was catching up with him. Sitting there, surrounded by 12 young people aged perhaps 18 to 22, all chatting and making merry in his apartment. Hubert felt happy in all the commotion of the fresher and more energetic crowd. There was a knock at his door. It was an obnoxious banging. A voice could be heard on the other side, yelling obscenities before declaring true intent. "Quiet down," the visitor bellowed. "Platchett, you're disturbing my peace with your get-together." Hubert raised and opened the door. Everyone quieted down and stared to the entrance. "Oh, hello, Superintendent." Hubert greeted the middle-aged, mustachioed Italian at his door. "I'm just entertaining." Everyone stared in shock at the arrival. Others averted their gaze. The superintendent looked equally shocked, with wide-eyed surprise. It was clear to Hubert that his building super didn't expect so many young people about. But it was uncommon for the young ones to be so chummy with the elders in that day and age. "You got the radio too loud," the super told Hubert. "I don't have a radio," Hubert replied. "Square!" shouted one of the kids from the room. It elicited giggles and guffaws from some of the others. "Shut up, Jimmy," a girl chided the boy's rude outburst. "All right," the superintendent told Hubert. "I don't like weird stuff going on around here, Mr. P. Just keep it down or something. I have tenants other than you, right?" "Sure, I understand," Platchett replied. The building super left hastily up the stairs and into the building above. "Aw, heck," a voice said out to the mob in Platchett's apartment. We ought to go. That guy gave me the willies. He's probably calling the cops or something. Don't want to be a pain for you, Mr. P, another said. The group mumbled in agreement and shuffled out. Hubert thanked them for coming and apologized. All that was left behind was Hubert, his cat sleeping on the couch, and a young girl. Hubert's prized wife, happily married, and the source of all of Hubert's contentment for the last span of his life. Her name was Ethel, née Elmreich. Their romance was an unusual whirlwind. Most said they should have never been conjoined, but they ignored the world and did so anyway. Neither looked back. Most wondered what Ethel saw in poor old Hubert, but the answer was only love. And, as most know, love can be a very vexing subject. This love vexed the world about them, for as long as they knew each other. It would never stop until the world was satisfied with the world's perverse expectations for them. I hope we aren't in trouble, Ethel said, strapping on a penny and producing a frying pan to put on the stovetop. Nonsense, my girl, Mr. P said reassuringly. It's fine. But it wasn't fine. Within minutes there was another visitor rapping furiously at Hubert's door. It was another middle-aged Brooklyn resident. Oh, no! Hubert cried, opening the door and seeing the familiar face. Not you, Mrs. Digbert. Yes, me, the woman exclaimed. I hear you are having some problems. You should really think about coming to the hospice at last. We'll take care of you. You aren't well, Hubert. Everyone is very concerned that you are in need of specialized help. What are you talking about? Asked Ethel. Hubert, please, Mrs. Digbert pleaded. We will take care of you. Ethel stamped her foot hard on the ground. The sound blasted louder than a bullet and echoed in the tiny apartment. And what am I? Ethel screamed. Chopped liver? Digbert looked in shock at Ethel. It was as if the visiting care worker was afraid for her life at the hands of a svelte little girl before her. Now, settle down. Hubert calmed down the situation. I have my beautiful young wife to look after me. She's a sweetie, and I couldn't live without her. After collecting her thoughts, Mrs. Digbert straightened up and backed toward the door. You're sick, she said to the old man she hoped to convince to come with her. Hubert Platchett, you're very sick. This is insane. You know this is perverse. It's disgusting. Ethel had had enough. She took a wooden spoon and launched it at the rude woman in the entryway. Get out! Screamed Ethel. With a yelp, Mrs. Digbert flew up the stairs after being hit by the airborne spoon. Oh, calm down, dear, Hubert gently advised his wife, coming to hug her close and cuddle her golden hair head on his shoulder. She doesn't know us. She doesn't know of our love. Ethel sobbed on her man's aged shoulder. I love you, Hubert, Ethel cried in gushing frustration. I hate how the world sees us now. I hate it. I wish they'd just leave us be. They think you are a gold digger, her husband cooed, and that I am a lecherous cradle robber. But we know what we share. I have no gold. You aren't in the cradle. Let them talk. The world has always been like this since we have known each other. The fools. He sat down and looked into the day's afternoon newspaper. Hubert began stroking his little cat, thinking how lucky he was to have his wife and his cat. They were what he loved most in life. Another knock at the door. One of the young men from the previous shindig had returned. He came creeping in. Hey, Ethel. Hey, Hugh, the boy said. So, Ethel, you gonna come with us? It raised one of Hubert's eyebrows. No, Jimmy, Ethel sternly replied. I'm staying here. You go on.
Go with the crowd. I'm with my Hubert."
Jimmy slyly saddled up to the girl by the stove and began purring and making eyes.
"Until death do you part, huh?" Jimmy said. "Well, I got other plans." "Go away, Jimmy," Ethel said.
The boy grew irate.
"Well, all right then," he blurted. "But I wish you'd just die already, old man."
Jimmy ran out as Hubert stood up to knock the punk down. Rightfully so.
"Get out!"
Hubert cried out.
"Get out, you blackguard!"
Things quieted down after a wonderful simple meal, expertly prepared by Ethel. They relaxed as Ethel knitted and Hubert read more news. A quieter visitor appeared outside the door. A tender and considerate knock on the wood issued.
"Yes?"
Hubert came to the door.
"Oh, Father Martin, how are you?"
Platchett ushered in the priest, who sat on an easy chair across from the couple on the couch.
"I came in response to Mrs. Digbert,"
the priest explained,
"and, the concerns many have had of you over the past weeks, years."
"Oh, Father," Hubert gently told the man of the cloth, "it's just natural haymaking and busybodying. They're too busy for their own good. Idle talkers."
"But throwing spoons, and the noise,"
the father explained further.
"it's just not right."
"I didn't throw that spoon," Hubert told the priest.
"I know," Father Martin replied, "and that is what has me most worried."
Ethel grew angry and stomped her foot down hard. The priest looked to her in horror. "Oh, hush now, dear," Mr. Platchett told his wife, then returned attention to the priest. "Everyone wants to tell me how to live, but this is how I want to live. I am perfectly fine." Meanwhile, the group of young people filed into the apartment, silently filtering behind the priest and waiting to talk to Hubert and Ethel. "I have so many friends," Hubert continued, "and they make me so happy, as does my wife and my sweet, sweet cat of so many years, little Chubby." Hubert stroked the cat laying next to him on the sofa. The priest stood slowly, looking in horror at the old man before him, as if the man was a murderer, a maniac bent on universal slaughter. The rest of the room merely looked on calmly, wondering why the priest was so distraught. And then Hubert shook violently. It started small, but intensified quick. And then he spasmed in his chair and flexed back with a convulsion. The priest cried out in shock at the sight. And then Hubert slumped forward, barely breathing. Father Martin panicked. "Call an ambulance!" he screamed, looking for a phone in the apathetic crowd. There was no phone. The old man had never bothered to get one, even a party line, as was typical of the people of his age. Hubert owned no modern refinements like telephones, TVs, radios, etc. The priest ran hastily up the stairs, screaming for help. A moment later, as Hubert seemed to fade even worse, he suddenly sat bolt upright and leapt from his chair. "Whoa, Nellie!" Platchett cried out. "I thought I was a goner. That was close." The crowd around him, the dozen-plus youngsters, smiled and nodded in glee. They surrounded him and patted him on the back. Ethel rose and joined her husband, Chubby in her arms. "I feel great," Hubert told them. "I thought I was going to bite the bullet at last, but it would have been so sad. I have so much to live for." He looked longingly at his wife and cat. A couple of burly ambulance men ran into the room. Everyone turned and looked. Hubert gasped. The EMT workers had gone to the couch to work on Hubert Platchett. Sitting on the couch was Hubert, but Hubert, to his surprise, stood many feet away with his attentive friends. Father Martin hovered over the health workers, saying the rosary and last rites. He's gone, one ambulance man said. Dead in an instant. I bet. Heart attack, most likely. Looks very old, the other added. He must have known it was coming. We all knew it was coming, Father Martin added. Poor Hubert Platchett, surrounded by nothing and no one for all these years, talking to himself, having delusions of friends and family. And then the demonic phenomena, the moving objects, the loud noises, the crowds heard from outside when no one was in here. I only pray that he wasn't taken by the devil himself, that Hubert Platchett was subject to temptations and evils that would compromise a man's soul. They left with the body, leaving behind Hubert and his wife, their cat and friends. I'm dead, Hubert said, shattering internally from the realization. But why can you all see me? We've been waiting for you all along, Hugh, Jimmy said happily. It's been getting boring. Couldn't wait for you to move on so you and Ethel could join us. But Ethel, Hubert asked meekly. Ethel? Oh, Hubert, his wife gently corrected him. You were at my funeral. It was decades back. It was, he stammered. I forgot. As everyone looked at the pair, Hubert began to change. He began getting younger in appearance. What's happening to me? Hubert grew frightened. I'm not feeling myself at this moment. I'm becoming younger. I feel so young again. It's like when we first met, Ethel. Come on, everyone, Jimmy motioned to the crowd as he rushed to the door. Let's blow this pickle show. I hear little Ronnie Yarbo is still alive. He's across town in Queens now. So I've been told. Let's pay him a visit, a girl chimed in. He probably needs some company while waiting for the big one, another kid cheered. They all left in a flurry of delight. Hubert Platchett was a happy man, gifted with the ability to connect to a world he never knew others couldn't see. And it kept him going long beyond where others would have passed away. And finally, beyond the grave, he and Ethel could be accepted for who they were and what they shared together in life and beyond.
Like and subscribe before I die. And ring the little bell or you will surely go to hell.
Oh, we're telling spooky stories. This is not a spooky story. Oh, there's no way on the couch I can say.
Depends how you look at it. It is kind of spooky.
I guess so.
Wait, that's it? That's the end of the story?
That is a